Welcome back into the LFC Transfer Room YouTube channel. I'm Jack, delighted to be joined by Damon, Colin, and Rigo here today for the penultimate match of the 2022-23 season, the final home match of the season, a 1-1 draw with Aston Villa. A game of mixed emotions. It was dominated with controversy from the referee. Late emotional equalizer for Roberto Firmino salvages a point, but in the landscape of the season, it means that Liverpool's Champions League chances went from about 2% to 0.5%. So we're going to kind of dig into that, just the general careers of these Liverpool players, and look forward a little bit here. Damon, how are you doing kind of after that? It felt, I'm about to say defeat. It felt like a defeat, but how are you feeling after that match?
Honestly, mate, I feel tired. I just feel tired. I feel tired of everything, absolutely everything. I'm tired of the season. I'm tired of the bull crap. I'm tired of the referees. I'm just tired of absolutely everything. And the only way things change is if people start being real. And I'm talking about not just about Liverpool, I'm talking about the Premier League as a whole. And the refereeing standard in this Premier League is shocking. And the realism is just going out of any sort of football opinion and any sort of decision when it comes to refereeing decisions and things like that. I can't understand how they can look at these decisions right in a VAR booth with the same video evidence that we have and come out with a different outcome. I can't get my head around that. I just can't understand it. Yeah, I'm just tired, mate. Honestly, tired and just feeling so deflated right now.
Well, digging into the referees for sure, there was half dozen big incidents in the match. Rigo, I'll swing it around to you. Before we dig into the referees in full, just thoughts on the match, takeaways immediately after that one. You are muted, my friend.
Sorry about that. I didn't think we started off our match at our best. You would have expected a big, motivated team to begin with, and from the onset, we weren't at it. And Villa from the beginning, played it perfectly. They came in with a game plan of playing shithouse football, time wasting as much as possible, trying to lock down the midfield as much as possible. Trent didn't have as much of an influence in this match as he has previously. And on top of that, a couple of refereeing decisions that clearly went against us today. I feel like we were robbed of a victory in sending off Bobby and Millie, as well as Ox and Naby to a lesser extent. And just absolutely frustrating. It's kind of par for the course for this season. Close, but not close enough. And we're likely finishing fifth, just a couple of points away from Champions League spot. And just very frustrated. So, but, guys gave it their all until the dying end, which was good to see. Stole a point at the end. Bobby scored on his last match. And, I'll take the silver linings where I can.
Colin, for you, any thoughts kind of immediately after that one?
Yeah. I mean, Damon said it. I'm exhausted. It just is like it's been such a long season. I feel like that 3 or 4 week stretch where we played Wolves and Brighton over and over, I feel like once we hit that point in the season, I feel like we've been stuck in Groundhog Day, like for the last 4 months. The match was tiring.
Yeah.
Nothing that was like incredibly shocking. You touched on it, like it was emotional, where I think I expected us to play emotionally and Aston Villa have a good game plan, and it just is like the most frustrating and a perfect microcosm, I think, for the whole season.
Martinez is up there. I think Charlie, one of our big contributors here at the Transfer Room, said he's up there with Richarlison for him in terms of players that he hates.
He's the worst.
Jen, good to see you as always, and massive thank you for the £3 super sticker there. Let's dig into the refs. I think that's the first thing. I'll try and break down moment by moment the big ones. So there was the penalty for Konate on Watkins. That's a good comment there. There's a lot to dig into. Anthony's got a great comment that I want to dig into in just a moment. But so Konate foul on Watkins. I think that was a Stonewall penalty. Are we in agreement that was just Konate a step slow on that one?
Yeah.
And in real time, I thought that was an atrocious decision, but it actually was a fantastic one. So
he got that last touch. Didn't he? Watkins got that last touch, and it just before Konate got him. So yeah,
really clever by Watkins, who impresses me always when he plays. Great hold up play, runs the channels really well. Misses the penalty though, so silver lining there that, okay, maybe there's a shot. Then there is the goal by Jacob Ramsey. And there's the red card question with Cody Gakpo. So Mings kind of goes for the ball, wins it, but his boots end up basically in the sternum of Cody Gakpo. And there is visible, like, I don't know if it's like cut scarring from his boots. Damon, for you, should that have been a red card offense?
Oh, every day of the week. And I want to see Dermot Gallagher on Monday. This is what I want to see.
Sure.
Because when it was against Tottenham, who was it? It
was Jota on Skip.
It was Skip, wasn't it? It was Skip. Yeah, Skip made the first challenge, didn't he? He should have got a red card for his challenge. Yep. And he sort of clipped the ball first before he went through the shins. Was it the shins of Diaz?
Yes.
And yeah, and then obviously Jota should have got a red card for his, but I said it was a red card on the day. Both should have been red cards against Skip. So on the Monday after that, when he went on to Sky Sports and spoke about Ref Watch, he said Jota's was a red card because he intentionally went high and fair enough. But he also said Skip's wasn't a red card because he got slightly of the ball. But if you actually look back at Jota's against Tottenham, he also clipped the ball as well with his foot. So you can't be contradiction one. You can't contradict both things. Just because he clipped the ball doesn't mean it's a red card. The same applies to this one right today. He sort of clipped the ball, but look at the fucking state of his stomach. Have you seen the state of his stomach?
I think
it
when
looks like he's been in Jaws fucking 3.
Yeah.
Honestly, it looks like he's had a fucking shark attack, right? So I want to see Dermot Gallagher crying on fucking Monday and actually accepting these refs are fucking shit. They're shit. And they've been shit for a long time. I don't agree with ref abuse. I don't agree with getting in someone's face for official. I call it out when I need to call it out. But it needs to be sorted out. This referee needs to be sorted out and accountability needs to be had.
The referees have been a massive discussion. We even had the I forget what it's called, the show in that they've begun. They brought on, was it Webb? Yep. What did they bring on? Brought on Webb to try and break down decisions, which I think is very smart. I think in the NBA, the playoffs are on right now, Western Conference and Eastern Conference playoffs. They have the referees come to the stand and they will describe a decision on a review. I think it's a brilliant idea. It could help with a lot of these things. Rigo, I want to play devil's advocate here for a moment. And Damon mentioned the Jota on Skip red card, no red card. We also have the Holland one in the Crystal Palace match. There was, I'm trying to think of other big ones. There was the Atletico player who did get sent off for the high boot in the Champions League last season, I want to say. But let's look at the Jota incident against Tottenham in isolation. Neither were red cards. It was consistent in that sense. Is that good consistency for you, Rigo, or should both of them have been red cards? And I guess where do you kind of fall on that spectrum?
When it comes to dangerous play, obviously we want to prevent players from being injured and prevent any type of maliciousness. And in those situations, you kind of have to judge them on their own. Unfortunately, if Gakpo was a little bit shorter, it would have been straight into his face, that boot, with Ming's height. As far as refereeing it, anytime there is, players know when their foot is high. You can tell just body position when your foot is high. And then anytime it comes to dangerous play, I would err on the side of caution and card those players. Relating back to that Spurs match, Skip would not have been on the field to receive a high boot if it was judged accordingly in the first place. He would have been sent off to begin with, and that match plays out differently. Jota probably isn't in a position to put a high boot in the, consequentially. We can argue about the butterfly effect from here to eternity, but I would err on the side of caution and card players just to get that out of the game, as well as undercutting players when going for a header or high ball as well. I'd be totally for that.
Yeah, and we'll finish this discussion on the refs, and then we actually have some kind of breaking news about Alexis Mac Allister that just broke from Fabrizio Romano. Colin, though, for you on the red card for Mings, where did you kind of fall on that?
Yeah, I do think it's a red card. I think regardless of the winning of the ball, I think all of them that we've discussed should have been red. And even dating back to last year, the amount of like studs into chest, squarely into the leg, I think is like has been constant and not called across the board which I just don't understand. Like both for and against us. Like I can't believe that it has gotten to that point where there are just guys all over the place who are just leaving studs up into people's legs, and it's just getting a yellow. I just don't. These are not. They're not incidental. It's not. It's dangerous play, and I think it needs to be. It needs to be kept accountable, but as we've seen the refereeing, there's no accountability and no clarity. So
we can lower our blood pressure a little bit with some actual good news before we dig into some more refereeing moments. About 8 minutes ago, from Fabrizio, 10 minutes now from Fabrizio Romano, personal terms almost agreed between Liverpool and Alexis Mac Allister, which kind of appears to be really heading towards Liverpool's first major signing of the summer, which, building off of Rigo's comment and Anthony's comments about Henderson, makes me feel very happy. Just because Salah today was very poor, really one of his worst games, I think, of the season. And I'm not going to sit there and say, make bigger claims about him as a player. I'm just going to say that it's because Trent's different role means that the guy he's interacting with is not Trent on the overlap. It's Henderson in that midfield role who kind of can almost overlap and underlap him. And I love you, Jordan, but you need to be third or fourth choice now, if at the club. So Mac Allister coming in is going to be a really nice injection of fresh air, and kind of like what Damon, we said when we first got into the stream, was season, let's just get it over with and then see some fresh faces. So that's some interesting news. I'll let that continue scrolling on the bottom of the screen. But any quick instant reactions from you guys? Damon, quick takeaway on Mac Allister.
You know what it's like? I don't know if you guys play Football Manager in America, but when at the bottom when you get a transfer, it says accept, delay, or cancel. You can delay it for another week.
Mm-hmm.
Klopp's had time to accept that he's been in the stand, right, and he's had that there looking at it, right, and he's looked at Henderson's performance, thought, forget this. He's accepted it. He's not having this anymore. At the end of the day, after watching that performance in that midfield, I'd take anyone at the moment, but someone like Mac Allister as well, top class player. I don't want to see him as a Bellingham alternative because he's not a Bellingham alternative. I don't want him to be branded as that because it's not fair on him. He's not at that level at Bellingham, that Bellingham can even hit. So, but he's a very, very good footballer, and I think he'll come in with obviously Premier League proven, so he could hit the ground running better than most. But yeah, I'm just so deflated about that game as a whole. I can't even be excited about that sort of transfer. If Bellingham came through the door now, I'd still be like, you know what I'm saying?
No, don't. If you got the here we go Bellingham to Liverpool, you're excited, Damon. You don't have to. Exaggerate.
I'll be doing it with my shirt off though. I'm doing that, but with my shirt off.
Rigo, for you, Mac Allister, any quick takeaways on that?
Great signing in my opinion, and from what's been rumored, the transfer fee is fairly reasonable, looking at between 50 and 60 million pounds, and that for a Premier League proven player, World Cup winner, a connector, a guy who plays multiple roles, can shift within a match between 6 and an 8 and even a 10. Solid penalty shooter, loves to play a beautiful pass. The ball doesn't stick to his feet. He likes to keep the ball moving, and that's what we need with the skilled offensive players that we have currently. And to me, I think it's the first domino in what should be an extensive rebuild of our squad. And hopefully it's the first in a couple of big names to transform this midfield. As I commented earlier, Klopp had a great tactical view of how crap Henderson is, unfortunately. I love the guy. He's given it his all, but unfortunately, he's not a starter in the Premier League, at least for a team of Liverpool stature. And getting a replacement, someone who can combine with Salah and Trent on that right side and handle pressure and not booted at the faintest sign of defensive pressure, is going to be great. It's a great signing, and hopefully the first of many this summer.
Yeah, Colin, for you, midfields, Mac Allister, just your takeaways there.
Love him. Don't have anything to add on him in particular that the guys haven't already touched on. I just am so excited to hopefully do as much business as humanly possible, as quickly as humanly possible, and get them in, and so that everybody can start preseason together.
Yep.
New system, new formation, new players. Moving on.
My biggest fear with Mac Allister was that the fee was going to be almost pushing Bellingham's, like 80 million or something like that. And I was worried, like, okay, this is great player, Really excited at what he's going to do at 24. A lot of room for growth and a lot of room for progression, but I was worried that it would shoehorn us from signing other players. But Rigo,
I don't think we'd make that signing if it was 80 million. Let's be honest.
Nope. Yeah, honestly, that they would have priced us out. Justifiably so. Justifiably so, though. I think they would have.
Yeah. I get that. Yeah.
But so I'm glad that the reported fee, again, reports from Fabrizio Romano here, reports that he had earlier in the week, were anywhere in the region of 50 to 60 million, as Rigo mentioned. Let's double back to the match. As much as we may want to look at the future, let's continue our discussion of the match. There was obviously Cody Gakpo's disallowed goal, which was a chaotic sequence. And whenever you have those in the era of VAR, I'm always wondering, did something happen? Was there just an errant hand? Was somebody just had a foot offside? And it was indeed Virgil van Dijk who was offsides when Diaz headed the ball back. Ezri Konsa then cleared, deflected. The Premier League ruled that he deflected the ball towards Van Dijk, who was in an offside position on the Diaz header, so the play wasn't reset. He was initially offsides. He played it to Gakpo. His shot was scored on the second attempt. So it was ruled for offsides for that. Kind of confusingly interpreted and distributed to people. I'll inverse the order I've been going with. Colin, for you, that one's almost, it's offsides usually is cut and dry. Are you offsides? Van Dijk was clearly offsides. Then it became a matter of interpretation, which is fascinating to me, that you can bring an interpretation to offsides. For you, your interpretation, was it an intentional play by Konsa, or was it a deflection that was correctly ruled as an offsides for Van Dijk?
After hearing the full explanation, and I think we were talking about this earlier, I think it is in the end the correct call, but the explanation or the ability for those on the original broadcast to give any explanation why deeply added to my confusion of what I don't think that they did a very good job of outlining what it was or why it should have been, and that made it worse.
Definitely,
I think in the end it's probably the right call, but like you said, it is a matter of interpretation, which is
a huge element of it is of how these things are interpreted is what the live broadcasts do with it. And so this is how they're cutting the shots, how they handle the VAR images, how they discuss it. That will shape the instant narratives. And then some people will just get it in their head from the first sight and then not change their things. Rigo, for you, you seemed a lot more aggravated about the call. You felt it was a more intentional play by Konsa. I guess kind of your thoughts on it.
Yes, and again, typically on a VAR review for offside, the ref typically doesn't even get involved. It's called from the VAR booth itself. They draw the lines and boom, offside. So that the ref was called in to make a judgment call and to rule it offside. It was a judgment call. The Premier League tweeted out themselves. The VAR recommended a review, and referee John Brooks determined it was a deflection off Ezri Konsa, not a deliberate play. To me, as a defender, I don't understand how it's not a deliberate play. You're trying to prevent the goal and getting in the way of it as much as possible. And to me, Konsa tried to play the ball. It didn't come out. We scored off of it, and to rub more salt into the PGMOL wound into Liverpool, it was ruled offside. And again, they did their best to prevent us from coming away with any points today. And Bobby was up to task, si senor, to make sure we at least didn't come away with a loss.
And David, for you, kind of on the offsides, where did you fall on that spectrum of belief?
It's strange, really, because for years and years we've been trying to explain to people without football knowledge anything that the offside rule. Right now we cannot explain it ourselves, and it's got to that point. It's just ridiculous the way rules are worked these days in football is just absolutely ridiculous. It's been put more complicated by different rulings and different putting the officials in charge of VAR and things like that. It's more complicated than it needs to be. It's just a simple cut and dry, like you said. Offside is offside. If you pass that line, it's offside. But I think I'm on Rigo's boat in terms of this one, because I do think he intentionally played at the ball, and therefore it's a new phase. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's the fact that we're even going down the line of going on interpretations of referees. It's not the rules, is it? It's just not the rules.
I'll make a counterpoint for you, Damon, really quick though. So the reason why the intentional play rule is a big factor was was it Bernardo Silva against Villa in the lockdown season when there's a big deflection and the defender slightly touches it, and then the attacker picks it up and it's a new phase of play, even though he was behind him in an offside position when it was played originally. What rule would you make to eliminate the subjectivity of offsides? Would you say any touch, new phase? Would you?
No, it has to be, like you said, it has to be deliberate. It would have to be deliberate because a deflection, unless, I'm trying to think here, because if you look at a goal, when a deflected goal goes in and it was going on target, then it classifies as the person that's shot.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's going off target, then it classifies as an own goal. So maybe if it's an off target pass, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Depending where the pass is going and it gets deflected in, then it's sort of like it should be ruled off because it's technically like an own goal.
Mm-hmm.
It's an own goal pass back. You know what I'm saying?
That is a big distinction with Diaz because his header was backwards, from where he headed it, and then Conte hit it forward again.
It's completely going in a different direction of the pitch. It's going towards Allison.
Yeah.
So that deflection then after that, it completely went the completely different wrong way. It was nothing to do with the Diaz pass.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's so telling as well that like as someone who has like a long-term playing background, like it's still so hard for me to even like wrap my head around. I feel like you need like to have a deep understanding of a refereeing like background and the like definition of the rule book. And I just think that is so inaccessible to like
the
regular fan. Yeah, it's any normal person to try to like explain that away, I think is a very telling as part of the larger problem of like refereeing in these sorts of calls where the ability to give transparency is so hard. And even when it's easy, they don't want to give it.
Yeah. It was a really contentious one. I think I fall on the. I really don't know which one I fall on, to be honest. I could genuinely hear arguments for either one, and I guess my actual take would be that's kind of a problem with offsides when you can you can make it change week on week. Again, the situation doesn't happen every match. It's a pretty unique circumstance for that to come up. So I don't think you need to tear the rule book apart. But I think, honestly, my big barometer for a refereeing decision, if it happened against my team, how upset would I be? I'd be pretty upset if that one was given, considering that Van Dijk was in an offside position and then he stretched the play by being offsides when the header was done by Diaz. So I would be upset about it. I'd be aggrieved if it was given. So I could definitely get behind the refereeing decision. Overall in the day, though, did not please the fans in Liverpool with decisions he was making, regardless of where you kind of landed on that spectrum. So goes disallowed. Go ahead, Rigo.
Quick thing, like it being kind of so 50-50, is it so clear and obvious to overrule the goal, though?
It's a fantastic point, honestly. And I think maybe what they're having to do is make a separate distinction where it's not like they made an on-pitch ruling that it was a deliberate play of the ball, and they had to make that decision retrospectively. I think that's why clear and obvious would be kind of tough to rope in. But it's a great point, Rigo, that you're making this really, really confusing. So yeah, and Justin makes a point here about just dangerous foul play. It's really, really tough to stomach that one, especially after Tyrone Mings did not have his foul upgraded to a red card, where it's just dangerous. I mean, his foot's in the chest of the other player. You got the ball, but you're really bringing in a lot of danger. And I don't know if it was Rigo or Colin, maybe it was you, Damon, who said if Gakpo isn't like 6'3", that's a bit closer to the face.
Yeah.
And so, it's a very interesting discussion there. Well, so the goal is disallowed for Gakpo, who was had a great start to his Liverpool career, by the way. He has been such a breath of fresh air in terms of his ability to turn on the ball, to hold it under pressure. He's helped sustain attacks in the final third immensely. And there was kind of a ropey first few weeks of his career where people were questioning, what kind of player he was. I think he's shown that he's going to be a fulcrum for the team to build around in the years to come. So after the disallowed goal, some subs were made. Firmino and Milner were both brought on for what would be their final Anfield appearance. Jota, Tsimikas, and Elliott also brought on. Not terrible bench depth, considering what we've dealt with in the recent past. But in the end, it was one of the subs, Firmino, who made the biggest contribution, got on the end of a Trivela from Mohamed Salah, and had a very acrobatic finish in the back of the net. The match ends in a draw, which for our Champions League hopes' sake is basically a defeat. But for me, it was just a great moment for Firmino to sign off like that. Damon, for you on the goal for Firmino, just kind of your thoughts and your takeaway there.
If it was a win, it would have been absolutely ideal, wouldn't it? I mean, if he left on that with a winner, it was a typical Firmino goal and all. Like the way he just put his body around, and he always scores tap-ins as such, but like really good tap-ins, if that makes sense. There's always something he does, like a flick or something like that. It was definitely a Firmino goal, and Mohamed Salah. I mean, this guy is just—he was terrible today. Let's be honest, he was terrible today. But things like that, the outside of the foot is just absolutely spectacular. Not many people see that pass. Not many people deliver that pass in world football, and he's forever disrespected is Mohamed Salah, but he should no longer be disrespected because this guy's putting up numbers every single season. Even when he's been terrible, he's putting up numbers again this season. And it's just a shame that we ended up leaving Milner and Firmino on this sort of note. It'd be nice to leave a win. It reminds me of the Gerrard one where we lost to Stoke.
Yeah. And
it just felt deflating, and it sort of spoiled the whole day as such. And yeah, like I said, I can't even be sad that Firmino and Milner's going because I'm so annoyed that we've drawn that game. But yeah, regarding the subs as well by Klopp, I get it bringing Bobby and Milner on, especially, but like, why is he bringing Milner on over Jota when we need a goal? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I think sentimentality needs to be put out of this club. It needs to be not put first. We need to start looking what's on the pitch and start putting that first.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys agree with me on that.
I didn't hate the subs. Were unideal. But
I like the Firmino one because I know he can score a goal.
Yeah.
But the Milner over Jota or even Elliott made no sense.
I have no stats to back me up offhand. Rigo, sorry, interrupting you there, but I think Firmino's got to have our most goals off the bench this season. He seems like the biggest threat to score a goal when he comes off the bench, which is going to be his biggest loss, is that we don't have that dynamic addition to the pitch that we can bring on. And you mentioned Gerrard. I was thinking about this actually. Our big farewells in recent years. Gerrard, the thumping at Stoke. More recently, Sadio Mane is the Champions League final defeat. Jorginho Wijnaldum peters out after we get Champions League football in the 2020-2021 season, but it was just a crap season in general. And then now these four guys where Ox and Keita kind of fitting for their Liverpool careers that they just could not get past their injury issues to take command of the pitch and that they weren't able to get on in a match of major substance. But I mean, I was very happy with the individual Firmino goal, but it was obviously in the bigger landscape kind of just bittersweet in a lot of senses. But Rigo, sorry to interrupt the point you were trying to make. And I guess any thoughts on Firmino's goal as well?
Well, my first thing was what I questioned was why did Jones come out instead of Henderson when Jota came on? That to me was like the bigger question. But overall, the subs did a good job. They maintained the pressure, and finally we were able to score. Bobby, of course, being the highlight of those subs, and being able to put a somewhat of a nice cherry on top of his career at Anfield. He's done it all. As I put in the chat here, Bobby, 110 goals and 72 assists in his career for Liverpool, and infinite smiles. And it's going to be a big miss not having him, but it is time. And thankfully, with both Bobby and Milner, they knew I feel like they knew that they had to be the ones to say no more, because Klopp would have just kept them along for I don't know how many years. As we've seen reports that he was still trying to keep Milner and still trying to keep Bobby, and I think they kind of know they need to move on to another team and allow a rebirth and a regrowth of Liverpool's squad. But overall, great to see that final burst. And very sad at the end with the tears flowing. Yeah, seeing them walk around. So
definitely a Liverpool legend. Any contention with that for Firmino? I think he's up there. I mean, you win basically every trophy on offer, and you're up there. So brilliant.
Well, it was a major part, wasn't it? Really, if you really look back at the way we played. He was the system. That's what I call him. He was the system. Without him, we don't win what we win.
Yeah. He makes Salah and Mane look like world beaters. Unbelievable front three. I don't have a historical perspective to put them in where they rank all time, but in my lifetime, I mean, I've got, Sturridge, Sterling, Suarez, and them three as kind of the big triumvirates for Liverpool's forward lines. And I mean, seeing Firmino out there, Salah will have to adapt, to a new guy in Gakpo, who appears to be catering to him in a similar way that Firmino did, kind of being able to draw him into that more central space. But unbelievable player, won't be missed greatly. Colin, for you, on Firmino's goal, just the moment as well, and just kind of the day as a whole, if you can.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember who I saw say, but he is class personified, like in every way, not just his skill, but just like the least problematic player you could ever pick. Someone who, if you were imagining, being the manager of a team, he's the first pick for me, because we'll just work to the bone. And on top of that is just absolute world class, and unbelievably skilled. I don't know that we know how much we'll miss him. I certainly think Cody Gakpo is quite good, but I don't know if it will immediately, and almost certainly not immediately, work in the same way. Because, like you said, Tim, the system is him.
Yeah.
If it's not, if someone doesn't work as hard as he does, I can think of so many games where he's picking up the ball in like right back positions, and then is playing through, and at the end he's the first one on the end of the ball in the box. I could not think of a better player and like a better person to have represented the club. Yeah.
Unbelievable player, and I think the right time for him to move on, definitely. There were big rumors last summer about a move elsewhere. He had some pretty valuable contributions this year, and this potentially his last big one. Let's kind of put what today's match means in the landscape of things. So Liverpool move up to 66 points now. They are 3 points behind both Newcastle United and Manchester United, who both have a game in hand. So what needs to happen is one of those two clubs needs to lose both their matches. Liverpool needs to win the final match of the season, which is against, I don't even know this offhand. I should. Southampton. Already relegated Southampton on the road. So I don't know what to expect there. It's classic Liverpool would be to just draw or drop that match. So it's not even a factor. But both teams have 2 games to play. Newcastle have a 7-goal differential superiority. Liverpool are in 5th, by the way. So Newcastle plays Leicester, who need a win, especially after the draw for Everton today. They play on Monday. And United plays Chelsea on Thursday before playing the season finales for both teams. It's Chelsea against Newcastle on Championship, or what is it, Championship Sunday? Is that what it's called? We call it. And then United plays Fulham.
Good marketing term.
Say it again, Damon.
Super Sunday.
That's what it was. Do we think there's a chance? I mean, obviously there is a chance. It exists, but like Newcastle need to lose by like probably multiple goals in 2 games, and then we need to win by multiple goals against Southampton, and United lose both of their matches, and this requires on Chelsea winning a match in either of these instances. I mean, do we see any reality where this happens?
No.
I have been asking my United friends if they can sing me the Europa League theme tune so I can get used to it. So I think that pretty much sums up my view on that.
That's pretty good, actually. That's a pretty good insult.
I'm going to be like Lloyd Christmas from Dumb and Dumber, and until we're mathematically eliminated, I'm still going to go. There's still a chance. So, however slim until we're out of it, keep fighting till the end. But Europa, it seems, is our destination, and that's perfectly fine. We were sitting at 12 matches ago, and to make the climb up to 5th with a lot of teams in between us, I think pretty admirable. And the tactical shift into the style we're playing now, I think bodes well for next season. At least we can hit the ground running, hopefully, in the preseason.
And yeah, I think this is going to be a tough one. The draw does keep us alive. There was a shot on the NBC stream where when there was that late free kick in like the 100th minute, they showed Allison, and he looked like in his eyes almost he was considering like, should I go up again? Should I go save our asses again? He obviously didn't go up the pitch to try and pull off a West Brom-esque winner, but the draw does keep us in with a very slim chance, but it's reliant on teams doing it. So basically the two matches to watch in between this and our season finale is Leicester versus Newcastle, which we should be working hard for Leicester regardless, because if they win, they push Everton down into the drop zone, headed into the final weekend of the season. That would leave it open, but then Newcastle, the goal difference would be a big factor there. And then Chelsea, Manchester United on Thursday, which, you know, look, it's not impossible, but it feels like we left it too late. And Rigo, you mentioned just kind of how far we were, but 10, 15 matches ago. This makes it 10 unbeaten for Liverpool in the Prem, which is kind of remarkable. It was 2 draws and then 7 wins on the bounce and then a draw.
If we could eliminate the month of January off our schedule, at least for the past 5 years,
that'd be nice.
We would have so many more points. It's absolutely ridiculous. We hit this swoon every year in January.
Yeah.
But hopefully,
the worst thing is we actually hit form before the World Cup.
Yeah.
And everyone thought that we might continue that form after, didn't we? And we thought, you know, we could actually have a chance here, and then we just didn't. It just didn't.
By the way, it is Nottingham Forest 1, Arsenal 0.
Can Arsenal come third, by the way, mathematically? I haven't looked at the table.
No.
They're
12. They're 12 clear. But a loss here would win the title for City. Which, honestly, this is my biggest copium of City winning the title is at least they won't have the moment of winning it. Like it'll be like when we won it, where someone else won it for us. Yeah. That moment is definitely diluted a little bit, isn't it? When like the mathematical win comes at someone else's pitch. Leicester's title win is definitely different because that was such an improbable title win that when Chelsea won it for them, it was still a great moment seeing those celebrations. And obviously I love seeing our celebrations. But at least we won't have, you know, and like a De Bruyne winner for the Premier League, which would just make me even more aggravated than I already am.
The Vincent Company one. Ugh.
See, wasn't that like a day before 4-0 against Barcelona?
That was something like horrible.
That? Because the only reason why I can that doesn't make me sick inside, like terribly, it does, but I die is because it was so quickly followed up with probably the biggest, you know, moment of our footballing lives, which is Liverpool versus Barcelona and the comeback there.
The only thing that doesn't make me sick is that all these titles have an asterisk next to them, and they're built on a sandcastle.
Do we think that there's eventually going to be some stripping in the titles, or anything come from this? People are like, someday the other shoe's going to drop. I don't see any world in which the titles are formally tainted. It'll just be a case of morality for forever.
I strongly, I mean, this is the pessimism. I strongly think that they will just pay whatever sort of, whatever legal team they can possibly hire and pay off as many people as they possibly can. And nothing will ever come to anything. They will never get punished.
Mm-hmm.
They wield power that goes deeper than I think any of us have any idea. I don't see them ever actually catching a punishment.
They received a 2-year European competition banishment, and nothing came.
And nothing happened. That. Correct.
They got off on a technicality, and you see, reportedly they're trying to go after the barrister's an Arsenal fan, something like that.
Yes.
And it's like, all right, come on now. The Arsenal fan was uncovering this evidence, which I'm gonna jump in this comment really quick. I think what you're getting at here is Liverpool win out. United need to lose 2 games in order to make it in the Champions League, because the goal difference is stunningly like United have a plus 11 goal difference. Liverpool have a plus 28 goal difference. I mean, that's basically that's entirely down to
it's going to be down to a 14 goal swing, isn't it?
I know. If that would be like the biggest salvation this season is if United totally choke it away and they lose to Chelsea and Fulham, where then it comes down to the fact that we thumped them 7-0 on goal difference or in one match. So that goal difference wasn't the mathematical 14 goal swing, but it was enough. It basically put us in the spot where we just had such a lead where they couldn't even worry about it. That would be kind of like, people always will taint that 7-0 and say, well, did you win a trophy that year? We won the Carabao Cup, and they may win the FA Cup. but we beat you 7-0.
They fucking winning the FA Cup.
Oh yeah, no. City are
winning the FA Cup.
City are probably winning the
I can't
treble.
wait to see City whitewash them.
They're a machine. They literally look like a team full of Terminators.
No, they are. Their celebrations in the Madrid match for those first 2 goals, like they look locked in. They look. It is quite sad in the sense that they are so tainted with the financial doping they've done because they are really, really good at the sport. And Pep Guardiola is a phenomenal manager. And I do wish that, I wish that he hadn't taken so many titles from us by being very good on the pitch, but also having a big financial edge. So I wish I could enjoy them a bit more because they're just, when they're ticking, and Kevin De Bruyne, I mean, that image of him is like, oh, I love Liverpool, always breaks me up inside because he's as close to Gerrard, I think, as any midfielder will come, in the Premier League. That's my thought on him because he's an unbelievable player. Enough about City, though. Let's get away from, talking nice about them.
You can't cheer for Lance Armstrong.
Exactly.
And you can't cheer for the Harlem Globetrotters, which is pretty much what.
Although I will cheer against another team winning the treble just to annoy United fans. My hatred towards United fans.
I always want the CL to be the thorn in Manchester City's side.
I
do
know.
not want them
Inter
to win the
I get that, but my hatred for my United fans is a different level.
Yeah. No, level. Honestly, Damon, there really is no way. We are losing. Like they're winning titles. There's always some sliver of hope. Either United lost in the FA Cup to give them a treble, and then they got a treble, or City bottled the Champions League against Inter Milan, who, no disrespect to them,
incredible.
but City are heavy favorites for that match. Not impossible, obviously, but I would be surprised if it went any other way. So let's assume for a moment, that it's Europa League next season. This will be kind of the last discussion for today's stream because there's an entire summer of discussion over transfer activity to come. What do we expect transfer budgets to be impacted by Europa League? Because it's the constant, let's try and avoid like what they should do. What do we think will happen? Yeah. Colin, I'll toss to you first. If Liverpool finish 5th in the Europa League, there's a financial loss because they're not in the top European competition. 30-40 million pounds is kind of the general estimated, what you make in the Champions League. You make a lot less in the Europa League. Do you think that our spending will be significantly lower, similar? Could it even be higher in an attempt to try and improve our position? What do you anticipate if it's Europa League?
It's going to be lower. I would expect that based on the way FSG operate, my guess is that loss in money will just come straight off the top. They're deeply beholden to their like accounting principles. And I think that just will come right. And whatever the number was that they said that, okay, you're going to have X amount of money, assuming Champions League, whatever that difference is. And if that's 150, if that was, whatever it was, minus the 40, it's cut and dry there. David said earlier, they are like American businessmen who care about the dollars and the cents down to the last decimal.
Yeah,
it'll just be straight off the top, I think. Yeah.
James Dean, another contributor to the transfer room, always emphasizes the impact that the wages off the bills are going to have for Keita, Oxlade, Firmino, and Milner. Sorry, I lost it there. Especially Milner, who's quite a high earner considering his role in the squad.
All senior guys.
It really is hard to gauge what the budget would have been with Champions League. Like Anthony says, our budget may have only been 100 million. Would it be 200 million? We have no idea because we've never really been in this spot where we need a massive summer with not a ton of incoming money. A lot of our big moves have come down off the fact, like Felipe Coutinho basically funded the structure of our backline, which we've never really dealt with having to self-fund a move there. Rigo, for you, what do you expect the summer to look like in terms of spend if Europa League is what we end up?
Going back to that comment you made as far as wages, as we all know, a lot of bonuses are tied into our contracts here. And with us finishing out of top 4, not finishing a Champions League spot, no trophies, no individual awards, I think we're probably saving a good amount on the bonus structure to begin with. Add in the high salaries that are going to depart and the lesser salaries that I expect will be incoming, even apart from the transfer fee. I do think we will be affected by not qualifying for Champions League just because it is FSG. All the credit that they receive for renovating the stadium, et cetera, we paid up front for that. Reports came out this week that at least it has cost Liverpool at least one incoming player each window for the past 3-4 years with the payment structure that they put in for the renovation. So FSG do not put in their own cash. So anything that we have and we spend has to be generated by the club. So I do think we will be impacted. To what degree? Hopefully not as drastic, just because, again, we aren't going to be paying out so many bonuses, and we do have some high earners leading the squad.
It is a tough one with the stadium because, it's hard to hear like that you're losing the immediate impacts that you could have with winning trophies and the players that you could sign with that money. But you think with expanded, suites, just capacity in the stadium, that's just money year in, year out. It helps the health of the club, gets more people into the stadium because, this is an interesting group here with 3 of us not based. Colin, maybe you're based in the UK, but you got obviously an American accent on yourself. But we're not people who can make a quick drive or a train ride or anything to go to a match. So we are the kind of tourists who would be going to the match. So when more people can get into the stadium, the global impact of Liverpool is more accessible, and it's less, I think, there's always that constant back and forth, the local versus global. And I'm, I can't sit here and be like, advocating for the local fan because I am a global fan. I've been to Anfield, watched one match. It was Newcastle versus Liverpool on Boxing Day in 2018, and one of the best memories of my life. So expanding the stadium is a brilliant thing, but I'm very hopeful that no Champions League doesn't completely curtail our spending because we need a lot of spending. Damon, for you have very, very few thoughts on Fenway Sports Group, but I want to try and get something out of you about them and kind of what you expect to see them spend. So if Europa League is what we get, what do you expect?
Well, first thing I'm going to say is, what is the goal of being a football team? What is the goal of a football club? And what is the goal of a sports team?
It's a business.
A sports fan.
It's a business,
okay.
Self-sustaining business.
That's a business goal, right? Okay, I get. Right, okay, but what's the goal? The goal is to win trophies.
Yep.
As a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old child, I didn't know who the fuck was running our club. I didn't know who the fuck the sporting director was. I knew the players and the manager, and that was about it. And all I cared about was winning on the pitch, and the transfers were part of that. When I got a bit older, when I could understand transfers, like talking like 10 years old, and say, "Oh yes, we've got this player. Yes, we've got this player. It's going to change." I think you started to understand football a bit more. But even then, you're still not talking about your owners. Only in recent years where owners is becoming a discussion because owners are not giving a shit about what's going on the pitch. If they are happy to lose a transfer a season to extend the stand, then I'd rather not the stand be extended. I'm not saying, but that's just an excuse because we generate enough money as a Liverpool Football Club that we don't need to have to miss out on Champions League to get we don't even need Champions League football to spend what we've got, if that makes sense. Look back at Man United. Man United missed Champions League for quite a while, but look how much they spend in the transfer budget. Right. And this is when they tend to spend less when they make the Champions League to Man United. They spend more when they're not in it. So you can't tell me that Liverpool Football Club doesn't make enough money that we have to rely on Champions League football to spend a decent amount of money in the transfer budget. Because when we won the Champions League, we bought Adrian, Sepp van der Berg, and Elliott. So where the fuck's the excuse there then?
It was Shambhala. That was Shambhala. That was absolutely horrendous.
There's no excuse. It's a perfect excuse for FSG to run out. It really is. I bet they didn't want Champions League football because they're like, oh, at least we've got an excuse not to spend this summer. They don't give a shit.
No, they don't.
The reason why they give us a stadium. The reason why they give us a training complex is because it values it increases their value on the club itself. And when they do sell the club eventually, they can get more money. That's all they care about.
Yeah. If FSG are angling for a future sale, the current squad value comes into things, but you sign Alexis Mac Allister, say for £60 million. His value, his shelf life is not anywhere close to a stadium, obviously. The stadium is 40, 50, 60 years of investment there. Mac Allister is 5, 6, 7 years. You're hopeful that he can go play till 31 as a high-quality footballer. That's a much shorter shelf life, obviously. So the assets of the club have gone up. With FSG, they've raised the roof in that sense. But obviously, Damon, it's been, choosing one, not the other.
It shouldn't be a detriment. It should be a detriment to what's going on the pitch. This club earns more than what's being letting on. They really do. And people say, well, we pay a lot of wages. Who the fuck's paying the wages? FSG. Do you not realise who's paying these wages? Do you not realise who's spending this money elsewhere?
Yeah,
you can't use excuses.
It's a fascinating discussion point on what Liverpool will do this summer in terms of spending. And we'll have an entire summer to do it. Reports suggest that we're quite close on Alexis Mac Allister. Fabrizio Romano saying, deal's not done, but personal terms are almost agreed. Fee probably, in the near region. I could very easily see maybe a 2-1 scraper win over Southampton, but because both United and Newcastle got a point, we finished 5th. But then on Sunday, we get Alexis Mac Allister announced or something like that. I could very easily see that, Jordan Henderson contract news, or was it Nat Phillips? Who was the contract news at the end of the window where they kind of threw him out there as like, we got a new contract extension instead of signing somebody at the end of the window. That happened, I think. Yeah. Last summer,
the PR we spin on this club is absolutely. I mean, look at the timing of the Mac Allister news right now.
Yeah. It
couldn't be more timed as it. I know Fabrizio Romano don't have close links to the club, but it's he must have something there where you get told put it out this time.
I don't think they would. They wouldn't tell Fabrizio put it out at this time. They just tell Fabrizio like they'd update him, at an important moment because that's his sources are club sources, they're agents, they're members of the PR staffs of the clubs, and Fabrizio is such a big. I mean, Fabrizio Romano. Clubs need to, clubs and players who work him are very, very clever because he's got 9 million followers on Twitter, millions on Instagram and YouTube as well. Like, he is bigger than a good majority of clubs in terms of the reach he has. So people I forget, there was an example that I was thinking of, but players could almost raise their image in the game by just giving access to Fabrizio Romano. So he'll just tweet about you randomly, and then he'll get you 500,000 impressions just because he tweets nice performance from Declan Rice, why he's so highly sought after in the summer with multiple clubs. Obviously, Rice doesn't need his own PR, but it just raises the image of him there. So it's going to be a fascinating summer to come. And make sure you subscribe to the channel for all the news. You can turn on alerts so when we go live or put out a video. Community posts, we'll try and do a better job of putting out updates there. But if you want the best updates about Liverpool Football Club, LFC Transfer Room on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. What other big platforms are there? We're on YouTube. I don't know. Just kind of follow us around. And then obviously our handles are all here if you'd like to follow us on Twitter as well. Any last thoughts from us before we get out of here? Colin, I'll swing it to you for the first final thoughts.
Can't wait for this to be over. I keep thinking of the Phoenix metaphor, which is like this needs to burn quickly so that we can start something new.
Rigo, for you, final thoughts on the stream.
Final thoughts. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Millie. Thank you, Ox, and thank you, Nabby. Without you guys, we wouldn't have collected the trophies we have these past few years. Each of you contributed in your own ways. Fortunately for a couple of you, not the heights we expected, but still played your heart out. And thank you for contributing to the success of the club, and best of luck. Hopefully it pans out better than ex-Liverpool players that have left recently, whose careers all went.
It really is like a majority of players, ex-players now. It's not
there hasn't been one who's reached the heights of their Liverpool success.
Luis Alberto, maybe. I mean, just like in terms of improving
Who's
upon
the-
departure.
who's
anonymously
Suso?
in Serie A,
In recent years,
unfortunately.
in recent years, though, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But yeah,
I
mean,
mean,
obviously Luis
Shaqiri
Suarez.
is the highest paid player in MLS.
He's getting that bag. He's getting the bag in Chicago. Yeah, lovely city. Damon, final thoughts from here today.
If there was a day and a game as such to sum up mixed emotions, the term mixed emotions, it's this one. Because, you could be sad about the players leaving, Bobby Milner especially, but then I'm angry about the game, I'm angry about the season. I'm a bit excited to see what could come, but do I have faith in it happening? Not with FSG. I can't. And people say, "Oh, just wait till the summer ends. Why are you mourning now? Wait till summer ends." Because it's been proven in the past 2-3 seasons that they're not willing to back Klopp. So why should I have faith in them now? I have faith in Klopp because he's one of the best managers in the world. He's the best manager I've seen at Liverpool in my lifetime. I have faith in some of these players because Diaz, world class. Salah's still world class. Alisson's best keeper in the world. So, but to have faith in those whilst watching the City team pretty much demolish Real Madrid the other night, we need to be looking at challenging them next season.
Mm-hmm.
So, are we going to have enough to challenge them next season? And some fans are happy to bring 2 midfielders in. 2 midfielders is not enough. If you watch that crap that you've just seen today, you'll think 2 midfielders is enough.
We're losing 3.
We need at least 3. I think perfectly is 4. Like 3 proper first teamers, then maybe an upcoming one like the guy from Bristol City, for example. Mm-hmm. I'm happy with 3. 2, I'm not happy with.
Yeah.
I'm no longer accepting mediocrity. And if you want to fans that are going to keep real, this is the channel for you because we're not linked with the club, and we have we might want to go in the press conference at some point. I don't know if they dare put us in the press conferences. Watch this space, but yeah, we've got to keep it real, haven't we, guys? At the end of the day, whatever happens on the pitch, it matters more than anything else. Forget the books. I don't care if we're in green. I don't care if we're in red. What happens on the pitch is what matters, and if that backing ain't right this summer, we're going to be fucked again. Let's be honest.
I love to transfer and keep it real. For Damon, for Rigo, for Colin, I've been Jack. It's been a great, just under an hour discussing the match here today. A lot bigger context as we'll discuss today. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. A lot more content to come. It's in our name. This is our heyday, LFC Transfer Room. We'll get you the insight on the players that you need that could be coming into the club. Alexis Mac Allister, watch this space for a stream about that very, very soon. Until then, take care and have a great rest of your day.